G'day and welcome to another episode. My name is Daethstro, the Aussie Geek, and today we are doing the Gigapower Superator, aka Grimlock, the metallic version. Now, for anyone wondering what's the difference with this version and the apparent the other one is chrome. And while I like chrome, I don't like the fact that it rubs off. I have that problem with my MP10 smokestacks. You eventually, with cleaning and dusting and rubbing, you slowly itch away the chrome and you see the plastic underneath. Painted plastic, especially metallic, while it may eventually paint chip, will last a whole lot longer. So here is Superator, their Grimlock. I wasn't sure when I was going to do him and hit the rest of them. I don't have Slag, Sludge, or Snarl. Slag and Snarl are pre-ordered, but I have no idea when they'll get released. Sludge, I'm still trying to find somewhere to pre-order. I've got Swoop, and I've got, obviously, Grimlock here. Now, I do know that there was to be a throne for this Grimlock. Mine doesn't have it, and I'm not even sure if it actually released. But he has got some nice accessories that come with him. As you can see, he has his crown, and it fits one specific way. Be mindful, those are very pointy, and you will stab yourself. He has his gun, which is sitting a little bit iffy in his hands, is big and chunky, and I will prove just how big this guy is when we get to size comparisons. These pieces of mine keep trying to pop off, I think because of maybe the glue's worn out. But it is a very big double barrel blaster. I'm not quite sure if it was a blaster or a shotgun, but it does look pretty cool. So there's that. We also have his flaming sword. And no, he didn't steal it from Voltron when he wasn't looking. This is a path effect, so you can separate it. It has lighting features, and we'll get to that in a second. It is quite heavy, and all the gun and this does plug in using the normal method. You have a button here to press in, which lights this up. We will get to that in a second. Because honestly, it was a pain, a royal pain, to get the batteries for this, and putting them in is also rather iffy. So I think I might actually drop the camera. This is going to happen probably a lot because of transformation and how big he is. So as you can see is sword. You can unplug those and you can put them aside, and they are pretty thick, sturdy plastic. All right, so we have his sword. So we have a whole lot of nice detail. As I said, button down here, which will activate. Now, I'm going to show you I know it might seem like fill up, but I'm going to show you about putting the batteries in. So you have these 3 screws. These are longer than this one, so don't get those mixed up. I have tried this already because I want to do it for the review, because I have been finding, not a lot, but a little bit, that while some will actually tell you what batteries you need for things, others will not, and even if they do tell you, they won't tell you the specifics. And not all battery cases are equal. Like, you know, if you get a, what's a good example? Agent Knight kit, right? When you open his battery case, it'll actually say in the instructions LR44s, and it will show you which way you put them. This doesn't. Now, be careful when you separate this, because the wires in here are delicate and they're not really situated very well. So we're going to split that up very, very carefully. Trying to get this undone. This always is a little bit sticky. I'm just trying to get my nail in there to separate the tabs. I'm trying to keep the blade from moving not too much. And there is the inside of the sword. This red wire and this little green wire in here, delicate as all hell. So you take 2 of these batteries. I'll show you which ones in a second. and you slide them so the flat surface is going that way and the rounded surface is going down, and do your best to line them up. Now you will probably force against the plastic, so that's nice and snug down, and we'll just test the thing. If it's not that bright, if it's really dull, your batteries are back to front. So then we will put this back in here, and I have a tendency of getting that stuck on here. All right, very carefully. Oops, that blade's moving. Try to line things up. Just having a look back there. This button also sometimes doesn't quite situate properly, and I'm just checking it. Yep, sometimes that'll get stuck. And by doing so, you may be able to turn it on, but you'll not get it turned back off. So we'll put that back in there. And I'll take the batteries out after this review, because honestly, there's probably a few batteries I really do need to take out, but I do find that if you leave the batteries in there, they will corrode. And eventually, even though you may never have ever an intention to ever use the light up gimmicks again, it will just wreck it, and there'll be one thing that'll just annoy you. I actually have to take it out of one of my Decepticons too, now that I think of it. So I'll just screw that back in, not too tight. So as you saw, that lights up. It's coming through brighter than it is in person. This is just pure red. Looking at the camera, it's coming up as a white, but it goes up here, but it's more sticks around here. The idea is that this blast effect, or whatever you want to call it, is supposed to be all lit. It is semi-transparent, but as you can see through the camera, this is lighting up more than this. That looks pretty cool, but it does look like the fire at the end isn't as flaming as the rest of it should be. So there is that. All right, so the batteries for that, and I will say, I will give it to it, that the instructions do tell you they're AG6s. But for anyone who's bought cell batteries, there is no such thing as just an AG6. They have multiple different names. So I got this from my local electrical store. So they're 371, 370, AG6, SR920SWs, SR69s, and G7s. I got two of these because it takes two. Cost me $5. That might be different where you live, so just be aware of it. But yeah, I had fun trying to find this, and even the lady that helped me at the store wasn't quite sure what I was asking for. So yeah, your best bet for these for any batteries, cell batteries specifically, go to your local electrical store. They'd have it. But even saying that does not necessarily mean that the figure will even tell you which battery you need. But yeah, so AG6s, all the rest of those, it does light up nicely even in my hand. So there is that. So we'll put that aside because we don't really need that anymore. The gun we still have a use for, but not necessarily the sword. So we can bring Grimlock back and raise the camera up a lot. So here he is. He looks pretty cool. Like I said, he does have a crown. He does have one other accessory. So we can take the crown off, and I usually display this just on its own. I literally have little pieces along the front of my shelves for just things like that. So you have this head. It has no light up features or anything, but he does have an alternative head. So I'm just going to pop that off, just a ball joint, and we'll bring it here. And I won't lie, I keep thinking I really do need to have sort of a closer backdrop. So hopefully this works. So here is your original head. And now I'm focusing on my table. Come on. I don't quite have an autofocus without something being in the way. There we go. So we have this one. Looks good. Looks nice. Very classic Grimlock. However, we have this one, which I want to say is more of an IDW-esque one. And I do love, and I'll turn the light on with it, hopefully it won't misfocus it. You have a teeth design, which of course is not on this one. So these are pretty much identical except for the visor color and those teeth. I would love to take that visor out, put that visor in because I do like the blue eyes. It doesn't look too difficult, but I am worried I'd snap something. So I'm thinking I need to pull this down because there's no screws. So I'm assuming this is glued together, and I'm not even attempting to pull that apart. But yeah, I would love to put the blue eyes in this one. So you do have choices. And of course, it's just a simple matter of popping it on the ball joint. Pops on and off really, really, really easy. That is all the accessories for now. Like I said, the gun will come back into it later. But right now, not really. Obviously, just Decepticon. Autobot insignia is not included. We'll just drop the camera down a little bit. But he's big and he's chunky. I know Fans Toys did theirs. I know we had the Power of the Prime Dinobots. I would love, I'm not a huge fan of, but I would love Gigapower to do Slash and paddles, just to include the more newer ones. And I will say this now, I am not in the party for Volcanicus. I like the concept. I think Volcanicus should have been different characters. I think the Dinobots themselves are awesome enough characters that they do not need a combining gimmick. I think they're strong enough. I think they're awesome enough that actually giving a combining gimmick, if you used it, they are too strong against everybody, including Predaking. So I think the Dinobots should have always remained as just Beast Bots. That's it. I'm not going anything else in with that. I'll start a tirade and I will just ruin this video. So I'm not going to do that. All right, so let's get down to articulation. His head 10 to a full 360. You will need to lift that chin up to get past his collar. Goes down a little bit, goes up a lot. And because we have a ball joint, we have side to side, so he can look a little confused. The backpack wings can go further out. I'm very, very slow with my movements because I'm getting to the point now where I'm worried that if I do things wrong, I will break things. You can do that on both sides, and the reason I've done that is because you can rotate his arm full 360, but with that where it was, it's in the way. Arm comes out that far. You have a really tight, ratcheted bicep, so be very careful with that. You have double jointed elbow, which really doesn't get you very far, but I think it sort of helps more in Dino mode, but not really. All right, something that I have to bring up. All right, so we'll bring the fist up, and these all move, which is more useful for Dino mode. Also, these are die cast. The wrist, especially for transformation, is going to cause you problems, and you know what? I'll do that when we actually get to it. But we do have wrist rotation. We have individuated fingers. Whoops. So we have pin, and the knuckle is actually inbuilt. The ball joint is inbuilt. The thumb has pin, ball joint. Be careful of the ball joints. As much as I love this design, I broke the fingers on one of my Swoop's hands. So just be careful with that. Also, the elbow goes back, but that's born for Dino mode. He has a waist swivel. There's no crunch there. Now, if I can get to it, which is easier said than done. If we lift the Dino head up, you have this button. See, I got some paint chipping to do. We have this button. It's a little bit awkward. If you push that in and then push forward, oops, no, move that back. You do get a teeny tiny bit of an ab crunch. Not much, but it does exist. And I suppose if you wanted it so that Grimlock is looking more down on something, which honestly, Grimlock should be looking more down on stuff. And then, of course, you just lock that back and the button will pop out. All right, so get that out of the way. You have your side skirts, this one, and this one. So leg is on a soft ratchet, gets you up that far. Gets you back that far. I think the plastic here is actually hitting here. You have a ratchet that gets you out that far. You have an upper thigh swivel, which is rather tight. You have a ratchet knee that gets you that far. Put all this back where it was. You technically don't have that's an ankle tilt, but that's more standard. So it's technically more like a sculpted, because if you actually use the actual proper ankle tilt, it points upwards. So that's more for transformation, but yeah, you can obviously flatten it out a bit if you want. So you do have a tiny bit of ankle tilt, but that's more standard than actual proper movement. All right, so we're going well. Let's get this guy into beast mode or dino mode. Now, I'm going to be very careful with this because some of this scares me a little bit, but let's start with the hands and I will actually point out what I was talking about. Now, when you get this guy for the first time, this joint is going to be stupid tight, and I'm pretty sure he came in robot mode. So I would highly recommend unscrewing this a little bit and unscrewing this a little bit. With this here, make sure that gap is there. If this is like that, you will potentially break this when you go to open the panel. Make sure that gap's there. Flip that up, and you have his hand. You will have to use a screwdriver or something to get in there, but like I said, loosen those a little bit. Mine's all screwed back in, and I would highly recommend for like 5-10 minutes, just keep doing that. Just keep doing that. And once it feels like it's loose enough, then screw those back in. Also be aware that the back of this thumb tends to hit there. So you may have to just chill it out a little bit. Then that can go all the way in. Yeah, I literally had to use a screwdriver to get that out, but back and forwards. So you have this tab here is going to go into this port. And that's 1 foot done. Same on the other side. Make sure that gap is there. Fold up. We'll close his fingers. Same thing on this side. Unscrew. Play around with it a bit. I tried having it so his fingers are in. I couldn't grip it. And doing it the other way around, I was worried I was going to break his fingers. And I've got paint chipping here as well. So that closes in. All right. Now I've got to remember which way I need his arms. So I think I need them up, like so, because they're going to move. So, like I said, this is a lot of repositioning the camera and trying to keep things focused. So I apologize. You have these two pieces here. They're going to slide forward. You're then going to pull out both sides, and if everything is out of its way, there we go. These are going to drop down, right? So there's plastic pieces now. I'll try to get a better shot in a minute. This does absolutely terrify me. So I need to drop his chest. Last time I did this, last time I did that, when I was trying to remember how this transformed, that didn't want to move. So maybe that's also part, oh, not really. So if yours isn't stiff, just push it straight down. Then we can come to the backpack, and you're going to push all the way up, as far as it'll go. All right. Now we're almost done, and I think my shoulders aren't quite where I want them, but I'll try to lighten this up a bit. So if you see in here, you have this bit of plastic. And if you look very carefully in there, you have 2 grooves. This one, and you have this one. This one is for robot mode. This one's for dino mode. So you line that up, and you push that in. Same on both sides. And then you can push those back. So that's now locked all this in place. Don't move anything without those. Right, we're going to bring the dino head up. Try to make sure that backpack is all the way up. Get rid of the light for the moment. We do have a little bit of clearance issue here. And I've yet to find a really decent way of doing this. So what you're going to do is bring these around into here. These grooves are going to clip around here, and I highly recommend you not try to tab them in all the way, otherwise you're going to have a hell of a time trying to get them to untab. So it will require a little bit of flexing, and I'll get to that bit in a minute, and just try to get things past things and make sure that lines up properly and just close it enough. I try to keep this a little bit seamed so I can at least get my finger back in there to untab that, to unplug things. All right, I'm going to get those T-Rex hands up in a minute. Like I said, he does have some issues, clearance, and a few things just keep going to fall apart, but I'm not up to that part yet. All right, so what we're going to do is we're just going to bring his legs up, because now we're going to do his tail, and this can be a bit of a pain too. So you're going to rotate his thighs, and I'm going to bring out his thighs a little bit, so he's going to be at a weird angle. This is going to get a little awkward, so I apologize ahead of time. All right, so you have this piece back here. If you need to, you can use the inside turn a little bit, not too far because you're going to hit the tail. Just enough so you can get your finger in there. Then bring that back. Now you have various tabs in here, so you need to sort of lift out and fold that back like so. So you're getting all this out. Don't force it out, just take your time. All right, we're going to bring this around, and then we're going to use that weird foot, if I haven't got it, like that. So we want all this spread out. You're going to find this gap. Trust me, it needs to be there. Okay. This is once again going to be awkward because I have the phone in front of me. But you're going to untab that. You're going to very carefully fold all this back and be careful of that hook. And that's going to fold in there. Like so. We can pull out the tail, if you can actually see that, and rotate that around. And this is all going to go up to here. I'm just trying to think if I can do this. All right, I'm going to try something. I don't know if it'll work. I'm going to fold all this back up, and I'm going to try to tab that back where it was and keep the tail near the back. Not too much, just enough. You're going to bring the side skirt up a little bit, and we're going to rotate this in about that much, and then bring his actual thigh in, and then we're going to bring his leg back. So what's going to happen, because we need to keep that knee relatively straight, this is going to curve round, this is going to fit sort of in this gap, and this piece here is going to tab in. So let's see if I can get this working. Now you do have this tab that's going to go in that port. It's going to be a pain, but we will try our best. So just swing that around. This is going to be in the way, so you will have to sort of angle things. Try to get that roughly where it is. And I'm not going to tab it in yet because I know that I'm going to probably have to move that. But if that roughly lines up, so I haven't quite got it as high as I need to, that's going to tab in. All right. So let's try this again. So we are going to, like I said, don't go nuts doing this. If you need to, get a tool, but just a little bit so you can get your nail in there to unhook that, bring that out, fold that back out again, and tab the tail carefully and bring it back. Bring this around and do that weird outer twist. We're going to close this for a moment, and we're going to very, 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 very carefully get all that past there. I'm going to bring that tail out. and rotate that around. And we're going to do the same thing as what we just did. So I'm going to open that up again, bring this up, bring the rest of the tail back, and get that in place and pop that back in. Right? Now, I'm going to lift up the skirt a bit, angle that up. I'm going to rotate all this around. And I'm feeling something slightly in the wrong spot. Get that past there. I think I just moved that ankle. And once again, we've got to get that on that tab. And everything needs to straighten up a bit. So just be careful, but do your best to try and get things positioned. And I will tab the tails together. So I think I pretty much got that where I want it. And I'm just gonna, so it's not perfect. I think it's a little bit far down. All right, get that push up, get these up and get these tabbed in. I should have shown it better. So there's a little tab in there, a little port in there, I should say, right there, which is where this is going to tab into. If it doesn't line up, it's not quite far enough up. Just be careful of his arms too. I won't lie, it is very awkward trying to get your hand gripped where you need it. Do I have it? Just trying to, I'm not quite far enough up, I think. That's one. That's two. All right, I think I've got them. If you don't have these angled like this, which looks weird, because that does look like it should tab into each other, you will not reach those. And that's not quite pushed in properly either. All right, back here. We're going to tab all this together. And this is going to go into these grooves, like so. All right, so that will really hold the tail together. That's not quite pressed together, but all things considered, it's pretty spot on. It's because I haven't quite got that tabbed in, but all this is holding it in place. So we'll just get Grimlock standing. Very carefully position his arms. I think the arms are a bit, beg my pardon, limited because of the way they're designed. I do try to grip him at the elbows, otherwise, so his joints don't go popping off. And of course, you can position his claws how you need to. Rotate his head down. And there is Superator in his dino mode. And I won't lie, he does look amazing. He really, really does. I usually have mine displayed like this. I like combiners. I think combiners should be displayed as combiners. I think Dinobots should be displayed as dinosaurs. I think that's half the charm. So, yeah, he does look really, really good. He does have some articulation in this mode. So his head can look up that far, look down that far. His jaws do open that far. And his tongue has a blast effect, which will go all the way up into his mouth and all the way down. Neck does a full 360 on a ratchet. Arms, as iffy as they are, can go out that far. It's a ball joint. I did remember, I think I had to plug these in. They go up that far and go down that far. You do have bicep. Actually, I think it's actually the ball joint that's doing it. You have down, you have up, and you've already seen I've popped one of those. I've got to fix this one too, but he does have wrist rotation. His claws do move individually, but they're super tight, so I am not going to even try. All right, legs can do a full 360 because they are using the shoulder joint. Legs go forward this far, and you can use the wrist joint as well. That will give you more of a back leg if you really need to bend. So it's more of a chicken stance than probably a proper Grimlock stance. He will stand because it is pretty sturdy. He is pretty sturdy, even that mode. So if you really want a chasing Grimlock pose, you can completely do that. He does have wiggle of the tail. Nothing back here. I think there's supposed to be, but it doesn't work. And this is all one piece. You can obviously flip it up and down, but that requires undoing joints. So let's get him back in his more standard old school T-Rex standing pose. Tail on the ground, back to where they used to say the dinosaurs stood, that they were too heavy to actually stand up. I'll get that back roughly where it is. Hopefully I won't pop that elbow joint. Probably will. And I don't know about popping the elbow joint, but I'm definitely popping that wrist again. All right. So there we go. Now, I will say in this mode, there's one thing that I think is missing. The blue eyes. There is no way to flip the head. I don't know if they made an aftermarket part, but I would have loved that the eyes would have been red in this mode. Now, you can take the gun. You have this port here. And if you look on his back, you have this port here. And that can plug into there, like so. I'm not sure if that was a G1 toy gimmick or not. You'll have to let me know in the comments. Also, if you want also one additional thing for the G1s, you can unscrew this and you can pop off this if you just want the circuitry look effect. All right, 2 size comparisons for Dynamo because honestly, I think it warrants it. So there he is with Windblade. He towers, absolutely towers over her. And just because we really do need to, here he is with MP10. And he is a good decent taller. I'll say this now and I'll say it again later. I believe the Dinobots should always be bigger than any of the Autobot lineup. They should always be bigger. Magnus, I think, should be close to the Dinobot's height in beast mode, but definitely not in robot mode. So let's get this guy transformed back. And as I found most of the cases, going from alt to robot tends to always be easier, and I don't know why. All right, so we're just going to bring these legs up out of the way. And I'm going to come under here. You do have this bit of separator here. Just pop your finger in there. Oh, we're going to need to unplug the tail. So it's not going to completely undo, but it's going to do mostly, and we're just going to put it underneath here. We're going to get in here, if we can, and pop those tabs. And we're going to very carefully split it. You might have to get your fingers in here to split all that. So we're going to do the same thing as we did to get in this mode. So we're going to try and get one past here. Easier said than done. Just take your time, and we're going to do it about that far. And then we can bring this out. So what we're going to do is bring all this back, like so. We're going to have to get in there, so I'm going to have to fold that back a little bit because it's easier doing it this way. Untab that, so that's going to expand all that again. Grimlock, do me a favor. Stand up to make it a little bit easier for me. So we're going to rotate and slide in the tail. Keep that nice and straight. We're going to, with the greatest of ease, I'll follow this way. I'm going to bring this piece down, and you didn't see any of that. Oop. Bring the camera down a little bit so you can see a bit better. So you have this, I just slipped in there for now. We're going to very, 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 very carefully bring all this back. Now you have this port here is going to go onto this tab, like so. Then we're going to open that back up again. So I've just undone this. Bring this carefully up here. And you will have to flex plastic a little bit. Just get that into that groove. Oops, sorry. You have these two tabs, which are going to go into these two ports. So just past, line that up, tab it in, drop that hook, rotate this around carefully. So that becomes part of your heel. And then you're going to, and I think it's already done it for me. No, you're going to push it up so you have that angled foot. And then what we can do is we can rotate that around and straighten it up. All right, same on the other side with weird camera angles and such. So we're going to do our best to try and get that past the backpack. Come on. It doesn't feel good, but just be careful. All right, so that hook's come undone itself, probably because of me forcing it. So I'm just going to tab that back in, so at least it's a step we didn't miss. Also, I have paint chipping back here. So we're going to bring this down carefully. Right, straighten it up. I'm going to bend that back a little bit again, and we're going to get in there. I'm going to unhook, and that's going to swing all that out. Bring that down again. We're going to rotate the tail, slide that back into its little groove spot. We're going to drop that hook. So just put this in here. Then we're going to very carefully flip that back. And same thing, tab and port. So it lines up there. I'm going to unhook that again. We're going to make our way around, flex it a little bit, get everything lined up, drop that hook, bring this back. We can rotate the hip, and that is his legs. Oh, almost. I'm going to push that up to give us our A stance, and that gives us our legs all done. Right. Let's come up. All right. Once again, we are back with the upper body, so I'm just dropping these down because so far I haven't found a decent way of doing this. This is why I leave this as split, so I can get my fingers in there. This is all going to come out. So just the initial split, and then sort of try to get things past those shoulders, and just be careful of those joints until they're back a little bit. I have tried nail polish on the elbows. I don't think the pins are far enough. They will hold, but when you move things about, they will let go. All right, we can raise his head and fold the neck back like it's supposed to. All right, so we have this. I'm going to pull these forward again. We're going to pull out the arms first. Come on. There we go. And slide all this up like so. And then we can rotate the arms up and make sure they're in the appropriate grooves and slide them in. And then we can bring them back down again. We can push the gold pieces back, which now locks the chest and the shoulders in place. We can push back on the backpack, and that will slide that down into place. And we're almost done. So we'll bring the arm up. Once again, make sure that groove is there. Bring this up. and get your thumb in there and bring it out. Like I said, you need to get that loose that you can do that, because otherwise you're going to be getting screwdrivers out to do it. Same thing, tab here, port here. All right, that's one arm done. Of course, you can fiddle with the feet how you feel. Same on here. Flip that up, get in there. Mine's nice and loose now after all this time. That tab's in there. And there's the arm done. We'll fix the head up. And there is Grimlock back in his robot mode. Looking real impressive. The transformation, I know the video's gone for over 40 minutes because we're going backwards and forwards. Honestly, you could take, I want to say 10 minutes to do the transformation if you weren't doing anything that I told. But I'm not doing just transform. I'm doing everything. So at least now we can get down to final size comparisons. So here he is with, I'm missing someone. What was I going to? No, I wasn't going to do something. Actually, I'll tell you what, I've still got a minifigure here. I'm just quickly transforming because it won't take long. But here he is with the G1 reissue of Bumblebee, just because I still had it on my side table. Not that it really does much, but there is with Windblade. I know I don't usually bring her in for robot mode, but it's worth it now. This is the perfect example of the point I was making earlier. Here he is with MP10. He towers over Optimus. That's how a Dinobot should size compared to Prime. I always think that the Dinobots should always be bigger. Maybe maybe Slash and Swoop a little bit smaller, but Snarl, Slag, Grimlock, and definitely Sludge should all be about this size compared. So he should be a giant. I think my MP22 is a bit taller than Optimus. I think I've got him on the shelf, but I need to remove a whole bunch of figures to get to him. So he's probably still even bigger than MP22. So there we go. That went well. So there we go. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like this video, give me a thumbs down. I promise you it will not hurt my feelings. Subscribe, ring that bell, leave me a comment. And apart from that, thanks for watching. I'll catch you later.